The Great Depression isn't history anymore. It's happening again, only this time, it wears a modern mask. The year 2025 has turned into a financial pressure cooker. Beneath the headlines of recovery and growth, the foundations of the American economy are cracking. States are drowning in debt, collectively burdened by trillions they can't repay. Pension holes have grown so deep, experts say they may never be filled. Budget deficits, once counted in millions, now stretch past $68 billion, widening with every passing quarter. For ordinary families, the pain is no longer abstract. It's personal. The average credit card balance now sits around $9,000, rising month after month. Insurance premiums have ballooned to nearly $10,000 a year, while property taxes swallow another $9,500 before most families even notice. Everywhere you look, the signs of strain are multiplying. Bankruptcies are exploding, jumping at double-digit rates in just a single year. More than 500,000 Americans have already fled high-cost states, leaving behind empty homes, shrinking communities, and collapsing tax bases. Behind the glitter of skyscrapers and the comfort of curated headlines, something is breaking. The illusion of stability is giving way to a darker reality, one of ballooning debt, rising costs, and governments stretched to their limits. Entire states are beginning to falter under the weight of their own promises. Pension systems are on life support. Infrastructure is crumbling. Budgets are bleeding red ink faster than they can be patched. This isn't speculation or political spin. It's math. Cold, unforgiving math. And the numbers don't lie. The cracks are spreading. The pressure is building. And for millions of Americans, the dream is slipping out of reach. So consider this your wake-up call. Because what's coming isn't just a downturn, it's an unraveling. As we count down the 10 U.S. states on the brink of financial disaster, remember, these stories aren't just statistics. They're warnings for every family, every taxpayer, and every leader still pretending things are fine. If you care about what happens next, if you believe in facing the truth before it's too late, then take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Not for the algorithm, but because the story of America's decline is one we can't afford to ignore. Welcome to America's Great Unraveling. Number 10. South Carolina. At first glance, South Carolina looks like a postcard come to life. Palm-lined beaches shimmer under the sun, Charleston's cobblestone streets hum with history, and sweet tea flows as freely as Southern charm. But beneath that beauty, a financial storm is gathering, one that threatens to drag the Palmetto State into economic quicksand. The state's population has swelled past 5.4 million, yet that growth hasn't brought true prosperity. The average household income sits around $64,000, far below the national average of $74,000, while the cost of living keeps rising like a relentless tide. In Charleston, the median home price has soared to nearly $490,000, almost double what it was just a decade ago. But wages? They've barely moved. For many families, it's a cruel equation. Earning less while paying more just to survive. And debt tells the rest of the story. The average household now carries over $7,000 in credit card balances, and auto loan delinquencies have jumped nearly 15% year over year. Healthcare costs add another $12,000 per family each year, squeezing working-class households until there's nothing left to give. In 2024, bankruptcy filings surged 18%, with counties like Horry and Richland showing the steepest climbs. For many South Carolinians, it feels like a quiet return to Depression-era hardship. Different century, same struggle. And the state's own finances? They're hardly better. South Carolina leans heavily on tourism, a $29 billion industry that looks sturdy on paper but is built on fragile ground. One bad hurricane season, one pandemic, or one national downturn, and billions could disappear overnight. Meanwhile, the infrastructure is crumbling. Bridges demand $2.5 billion in repairs. Public schools face budget shortfalls of $750 million, and the poverty rate, stuck at 14%, only deepens the cracks. Behind the palm trees and manicured golf resorts lies a warning siren. South Carolina, like many of its residents, is living paycheck to paycheck. Its government books are stretched thin. Its citizens are caught in a cycle of rising costs and stagnant wages. One more shock from nature, from markets, or from mismanagement, and the Palmetto State could find itself leading the race toward insolvency. What looks like paradise on the surface may, in truth, be a state standing on the edge of financial collapse. Number 9, Nevada, a place built on illusion. From a distance, it shines, a desert dream of neon lights, easy money, and endless possibility. Las Vegas sells the fantasy that anyone can strike it rich overnight, spinning reels under that blazing desert sun. But here's the truth. The house isn't just winning, it's taking the whole state down with it. Beneath the dazzle of the Strip lies an economy built on a dangerous gamble. Nevada's prosperity depends almost entirely on tourism and casinos, industries worth over $70 billion a year. But they're fragile as the mirage they represent. A 10% drop in visitors can drain nearly $1 billion from the state. And in 2024, when hotel occupancy in Las Vegas fell from 88% to 76%, it hit like an earthquake. $2.5 billion gone from gaming and entertainment revenue. And for everyday Nevadans? The promise of prosperity is fading fast. The average household income sits around $71,000, but the median home price in Las Vegas? Over $430,000, more than double what it was just a decade ago. Wages are stuck, costs are soaring, and families are breaking under the pressure. Mortgage delinquencies are up 14%. 19,000 bankruptcies in 1 year, one of the highest rates in the nation. The dream? It's starting to look like debt. The average household now carries over $8,500 in credit card debt. Healthcare costs average $11,500 per person, and property insurance? Up 18% in just a year. For many, life in Nevada feels like playing a game they can't win, because no matter how hard you try, the house and the system always wins. And the state's finances aren't much better. Nevada's so-called rainy day fund? Just $450 million, barely enough to cushion a fraction of the $2.7 billion shortfall that could come if tourism dips again. Infrastructure repairs exceed $3 billion, and the shrinking Colorado River threatens billions more in lost revenue from farms and real estate. Nevada is America in miniature, built on spectacle, fueled by debt, and held together by hope. Its wealth is performance, and growth masking decay. The lights of Las Vegas still burn bright, but behind them, cracks are spreading fast. One more shock, another downturn, another drought, another hit to tourism, and the mirage could vanish for good. What's left might not be the city that never sleeps, but a state that gambled everything and finally lost. Number 8, Kentucky. The land of bourbon, bluegrass, and the thunder of hooves at Churchill Downs, a place of pride, tradition, and resilience. But behind that southern charm, something far less romantic is unfolding, because quietly, Kentucky is galloping toward fiscal collapse. The numbers tell the story. The median household income? Just $58,000, nearly $16,000 below the national average. Poverty grips 16% of residents. And in many rural counties, unemployment has surged past 9%, nearly double the national rate. Once affordable housing? Slipping out of reach. The median home price now sits around $235,000, even as wages barely move. Mortgage delinquencies are up 12% year over year. And in 2024, bankruptcy filings topped 22,000, putting Kentucky among the highest in the nation per capita. Debt and despair go hand in hand here. The average household carries $7,200 in credit card debt, and more than 1 in 5 families is drowning in medical bills, averaging $10,800 per person. For many Kentuckians, financial survival doesn't feel like a race anymore. It feels like a slow, grinding defeat. But the real crisis? It's in the state's own books. Kentucky's public pension system is a ticking time bomb. With $40 billion in unfunded liabilities, equal to nearly 20% of the state's entire GDP, experts warn it could run out of money within a decade. And when that happens, the choices will be brutal: massive tax hikes or deep cuts to essential services. Either way, the fallout will be devastating. The state's budget shortfall is widening like a sinkhole, projected to hit $1.8 billion over the next 3 years. Infrastructure is collapsing too. More than 1,100 bridges are rated structurally deficient, and nearly $3 billion are needed just to repair them. Meanwhile, rural hospitals are closing at an alarming rate, cutting off healthcare for millions. And then, there's Kentucky's silent war, the opioid epidemic. It drains an estimated $3.5 billion every single year in lost productivity, healthcare, and law enforcement. It's not just an addiction crisis, it's an economic one. Kentucky still markets itself with bourbon barrels and derby hats, symbols of pride and endurance. But beneath that surface, the truth is harsh. The state's finances are on life support. Deep poverty, exploding pension debt, and rising bankruptcies have turned Kentucky into one of the most financially endangered states in America. The bluegrass may still grow, but beneath it, the ground is cracking. Number 7. Louisiana. Louisiana has always lived at the mercy of nature, a place of beauty and danger, resilience and ruin. But in 2025, the gamble has turned deadly serious. The storms aren't just battering the coastlines anymore, they're battering the economy itself. The numbers tell a chilling story. 19% of Louisianans now live in poverty, one of the highest rates in the nation. The median household income, just $54,000, sits a staggering $20,000 below the U.S. average. For millions, the promise of stability has been washed away. Even homeownership, once a cornerstone of Southern pride, has become a burden too heavy to carry. The median home price hovers around $225,000, but what's crushing families isn't the mortgage, it's the insurance. Premiums have exploded by 40% in just 2 years, soaring between $6,000 and $10,000 annually, after a relentless string of hurricanes pushed insurers to the brink. Thousands have simply given up their coverage, leaving entire communities financially naked before the next storm. The fallout is everywhere. Mortgage delinquencies are up 15%, and bankruptcy filings top 20,000 in 2024, and climbing fast. And the state's own finances? They're drowning too. Louisiana's public pension system carries more than $18 billion in unfunded liabilities, while a $1.5 billion budget shortfall looms by 2026. Its economic pillars, tourism and oil and gas, are both cracking. Tourism brings in $12 billion a year, but one Category 4 hurricane can erase $3 to $5 billion of that overnight. The energy sector, once Louisiana's lifeblood, now faces declining demand and federal restrictions that could gut future revenue. Meanwhile, the infrastructure is collapsing like levees under pressure. Over 12% of bridges are structurally deficient, with $2.7 billion in repairs overdue. Public schools face an $800 million deficit, healthcare costs soar past $11,200 per person, and the state's ballooning prison system drains $700 million annually. Louisiana isn't just struggling, it's staggering. A fragile economy, soaring poverty, collapsing insurance markets, rising debt. Every system that keeps the state alive is showing cracks. In the Bayou State, every hurricane season feels like a roll of the dice, and the house always wins. One more major storm, one more economic shock, and the next collapse might not be metaphorical. Louisiana isn't just broke, it's battered, bruised, and one disaster away from breaking completely. Number 6. Hawaii. Hawaii, the dream destination, the picture of paradise. But behind the golden sunsets and turquoise waves lies a truth that's far from idyllic. Beneath the palm trees, the islands are sinking under the weight of their own paradise. With just 1.4 million residents, Hawaii carries one of the heaviest costs of living in the United States, a paradise priced like a private island but financed by borrowed time. In Honolulu, the median home price has exploded past $1.5 million, nearly 5 times the national average. The typical household earns about $97,000, but more than half of that vanishes just to keep a roof overhead. Renters aren't escaping either, paying $3,200 a month for a modest 2-bedroom apartment. Then comes the everyday cost of surviving in the middle of the Pacific. Groceries, 40% higher than the U.S. average. A gallon of milk, over $7.50. Gasoline, $5 to $6 a gallon. For many families, every trip to the store feels like a luxury they can't afford. Debt has become the island's quiet current, pulling residents deeper each year. The average household carries over $900 in credit card debt, and bankruptcies jumped 11% in 2024 as more Hawaiians fell behind on the cost of simply existing. But the real danger isn't just in the homes, it's in the state's foundation. Hawaii's economy floats on tourism, a fragile lifeline worth $18 billion annually, making up over 20% of the state's GDP. One global downturn, one natural disaster, and the money stops. During a single hurricane scare in 2024, hotel occupancy rates plunged 30%, bleeding hundreds of millions in lost revenue almost overnight. The cracks don't stop there. Pension liabilities have surged beyond $14 billion, while a $1.1 billion budget shortfall looms by 2026. Infrastructure is crumbling under Paradise's shine. Just repairing Oahu's highways and bridges will cost over $5 billion. Even the electric grid, lifeblood of the islands, is fragile. Reliant on imported fuel, Hawaiians now pay the highest utility bills in America, averaging $375 a month. Behind every postcard view is a state on financial life support. Hawaii's beauty masks a dangerous imbalance. A paradise financed on unstable tourism, rising debt, and fragile infrastructure. All it would take is one more shock. A global recession, a major storm, or another collapse in tourism, and the illusion of paradise could crumble overnight. Hawaii may look like heaven, but financially, it's an island standing on the edge of the abyss. Number 5, Massachusetts, the land of Harvard minds, Boston grit, and revolutionary history. For centuries, it's been the symbol of intellect, innovation, and American ambition. But in 2025, that legacy is under siege. Behind the ivy-covered walls and glittering glass towers, Massachusetts is drowning in its own success. The median home price? A staggering $640,000 statewide. And in Greater Boston, it's closer to $820,000. Yes, the median household income sits at $96,000, but it simply can't keep up. Families now spend more than a third of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. The result? A quiet debt crisis, spreading from Cambridge to Cape Cod. Average household debt has blown past $90,000, while credit card balances hover around $8,800. Bankruptcies? Up 13% in 2024, as residents buckle under the triple weight of housing, healthcare, and student loans. A trifecta of financial suffocation. Education, once the pride of the Bay State, has become an anchor. Massachusetts ranks among the highest in student debt, averaging $38,000 per borrower. And healthcare, another of its proud exports, now drains the very people it's meant to protect, with costs hitting $12,500 per person every year. And the government? It's not doing much better. The state's pension liability has exploded to $45 billion, chewing through fiscal stability. What was once a budget surplus, a badge of discipline, is now sliding toward a $2.4 billion deficit by 2026. Infrastructure? It tells the rest of the story. The MBTA, once the heartbeat of Boston, is now a cautionary tale. A $10 billion repair backlog, collapsing tunnels, trains making headlines for all the wrong reasons, and the people are leaving. 55,000 residents fled Massachusetts in 2024, heading south to Florida, Texas, and the Carolinas to escape the crushing costs. Each family that leaves takes their tax dollars, their spending, their future with them. The state that once sparked a revolution is now fighting to hold its ground. The cradle of liberty has become the cradle of financial stress, a state built on education and healthcare, now strangled by the price of both. Behind Boston's gleaming skyline and elite universities lies a system stretched thin, a budget hanging by a thread, one hard pull away from snapping. Number 4, California, the world's 5th largest economy, the land of golden dreams, Hollywood glamour, and Silicon Valley money. For decades it was sold as paradise, where sunshine met success and opportunity never ran dry. But here in 2025, that golden glow is fading. Because beneath the surface, California isn't shining anymore. It's cracking. And what we're seeing now is not the golden state, it's the golden illusion. The median home price across the state sits at $760,000, and in San Francisco, it's blown past $1.4 million. Meanwhile, the median household income sits at $91,000. Sounds decent, until you realize it would take more than a decade of saving just to afford a down payment on an average home. For most families, home ownership isn't the dream anymore, it's history. Renters aren't spared either. The average two-bedroom apartment costs around $3,200 a month, while in Los Angeles or the Bay Area, it easily crosses $4,000. Even six-figure earners are living paycheck to paycheck, their wallets drained by childcare, groceries, and gasoline. Debt has become California's quiet contagion. The average household carries $92,000 in total debt, with credit card balances climbing past $9,000. Bankruptcies jumped 17% in 2024, especially in cities like Fresno and Stockton, where the ghosts of the 2008 housing crash have come back to life. The California dream has turned into a debt trap, families borrowing just to survive. And the state itself? It's not doing any better. California faces a $68 billion budget deficit in 2025, the largest in the nation. Pension liabilities top $150 billion, and unfunded infrastructure needs add another $100 billion to the pile. Each wildfire season burns through $2 to $3 billion, while insurance companies flee high-risk areas, leaving homeowners stranded, uninsured, unprotected, and desperate. The once mighty tech sector, California's golden goose, is faltering. Since 2023, tens of thousands of tech jobs have vanished, erasing billions in tax revenue and choking local economies. The industry that made California rich is now dragging it down. And the people? They're voting with their feet. In 2024 alone, over 500,000 residents packed up and left, headed to Texas, Arizona, and Nevada. They took their incomes, their taxes, and their hope with them. What's left behind is a shrinking tax base and a growing crisis. Then there's the humanitarian disaster no one can ignore. More than 180,000 Californians are homeless, the highest number in the nation. The state spends nearly $5 billion a year trying to fix it, on shelters, services, and temporary housing. But the problem keeps getting worse. In Los Angeles, in San Francisco, entire neighborhoods have turned into encampments, monuments to a system that can no longer sustain its people. California still projects the image of wealth and innovation, but the numbers don't lie. They whisper a different truth of debt, deficit, and denial. The budget is bloated, the housing market is unsustainable, the infrastructure is collapsing under climate pressure. The Golden State isn't a model anymore, it's a warning. What was once the beacon of the American dream is now teetering on the edge of a fiscal cliff, a glittering empire held together by borrowed money and fading hope. Because when California falls, it won't just shake the West Coast, it'll rattle the foundation of America itself. Number 3. New Jersey, the Garden State. Once a symbol of suburban success, tree-lined streets, two-car driveways, and weekend barbecues between New York and Pennsylvania. But beneath that polished image, something is decaying. The soil is souring, and the numbers tell a story of rot, not growth. On paper, New Jersey looks rich. The median household income sits at $96,000, among the highest in the nation. But that prosperity? It's being eaten alive from the inside out. The median home price has climbed to $525,000, and in the New York suburbs, it easily tops $700,000. But the real killer isn't the house. It's the taxes that come with it. New Jersey has the highest property taxes in America, averaging $9,500 per household every year. For many families, taxes aren't just a bill. They're a second mortgage that never ends. Debt shadows the Garden State like a storm cloud. The average household owes nearly $95,000, with credit card balances above $9,200. Bankruptcies jumped 15% in 2024, and foreclosures climbed 12%, marking the sharpest rise since the last financial crisis. Even those who look secure are living on borrowed time and borrowed money. Daily life is bleeding people dry. Commuters spend thousands every year just to reach jobs across the Hudson. Healthcare costs an average of $12,800 per person annually, consuming paychecks faster than they're earned. The middle class, once New Jersey's pride, is being squeezed out of existence. And the state government? It's no better. New Jersey's pension system has become a fiscal black hole, with unfunded liabilities topping $90 billion. Experts warn, without massive reform, several pension funds could go insolvent by 2027. Retirees would be left exposed, and the state scrambling to survive. Public debt exceeds $10,000 per resident, one of the highest in the nation. The budget deficit keeps widening, set to hit $4 billion by 2026. And the infrastructure? It's crumbling. The Gateway Tunnel project alone needs $16 billion just to keep trains moving. Over 500 bridges are now officially rated structurally deficient. Every delay costs money and time New Jersey doesn't have. So people are leaving. In 2024, more than 70,000 residents packed up and fled to states with lower taxes and cheaper living. Each departure drains more tax revenue, tightening the noose around a state already on fiscal life support. New Jersey still shines in the statistics, but behind those glossy numbers lies a darker truth. This isn't the Garden State anymore. It's the debt state, a gilded cage of wealth, taxes, and decay. The leaves may still be green for now, but underneath, the ground is rotting away. Number 2. Texas. Texas loves to sell its legend, the land of opportunity, oil, and independence. A place where the skies stretch forever, the cities boom with ambition, and success feels as boundless as the horizon itself. But in 2025, that story is beginning to crack. Behind the swagger and the steel, Texas is quietly breaking under the weight of its own myth. With nearly 31 million residents and a state economy worth $2.8 trillion, Texas stands as America's second economic powerhouse. Yet millions of Texans are living a financial nightmare, one that the numbers can no longer hide. The average household income sits around $75,000, but housing costs are rising faster than oil prices in a boom year. In Austin, the median home now costs $560,000. More than double what it was just a decade ago. In Dallas and Houston, prices hover between $370,000 and $400,000. Families are being crushed by mortgages and rent, spending more than 40% of their income just to keep a roof overhead. Debt is the new Texas drought, silent, spreading, and devastating. Credit card balances now exceed $8,700 per household, and mortgage delinquencies jumped 14% in 2024. That year ended with more than 50,000 bankruptcy filings, one of the highest totals in the nation. The Lone Star dream is now being financed by plastic and desperation. Healthcare offers no mercy either. The average annual cost per person stands at $11,500. And in the coastal regions, property insurance has exploded to between $7,000 and $10,000 per year. A direct result of billion-dollar hurricanes and climate-fueled disasters. Families that once bragged about low taxes are now paying more than ever, just not to the government, but to survive. And the state's finances? They're far shakier than the slogans suggest. Texas loves to boast that it has no income tax, but that blessing hides a curse, an economy built on volatile oil and sales revenues. A mere 10% drop in oil prices can erase over $3 billion in annual tax receipts. Pension liabilities now exceed $60 billion, and even the $13 billion rainy day fund could evaporate in less than 2 years if revenues stumble. Meanwhile, the population boom that once symbolized prosperity has become an economic strain. Over 470,000 new residents arrived in 2024. But the state's infrastructure hasn't kept pace. Roads buckle under endless traffic, schools face widening budget gaps, and the power grid, infamous since the 2021 blackout, remains dangerously fragile. Experts warn it needs $18 billion in upgrades just to meet rising demand. The image of Texas, bold, booming, unbreakable, is fading fast. Beneath the cowboy bravado lies a state riddled with debt, dysfunction, and denial. The oil wealth that built its fortune now fuels its volatility. The open land that symbolized freedom is becoming unaffordable, and the families that once came seeking prosperity are barely holding on. Texas still calls itself the Lone Star State, but that star, bright, proud, and burning, is flickering under pressure. If the economy dips, if oil prices fall, or if another storm hits, the legend of Texas could collapse faster than anyone dares to admit. The Lone Star isn't shining anymore, it's burning out. Number 1. Illinois. If America ever needed a warning label for fiscal disaster, it would look exactly like this. Illinois isn't just broke, it's the blueprint for what state-level collapse looks like in slow motion. Home to 12.5 million people, Illinois carries one of the heaviest financial burdens in the entire nation. On the surface, it still seems manageable. A median household income of $76,000, a bustling Chicago skyline, a proud industrial past. But beneath that surface, the numbers bleed red. In Chicago, the median home price sits around $320,000, but homeowners choke on property taxes averaging $6,800 per year. That's nearly double the national average. For many, that tax bill alone is the difference between keeping a home and losing it. Families are stretched to the breaking point. In 2024, bankruptcy filings surged past 40,000, among the highest in the country. Mortgage delinquencies climbed 13% year over year, while credit card debt ballooned to $9,400 per household. And healthcare costs? They've hit $12,300 per person, a number that pushes even middle-class families toward insolvency. And they're leaving. Over 110,000 residents fled Illinois in 2024, draining tax dollars, hollowing out neighborhoods, and leaving behind a shrinking, aging population to shoulder an impossible burden. Because Illinois isn't just short on cash, it's drowning in promises it can't keep. The state's pension liabilities now exceed $140 billion, more than any other state in America. That's nearly 30% of its entire GDP. Analysts warn the system could collapse within 15 years. Meanwhile, the state budget keeps bleeding, staring down a $3.2 billion deficit by 2026. Debt per capita now stands at nearly $11,000 per resident, ranking among the worst in the nation. And the infrastructure? It's falling apart. Over 2,400 bridges are structurally deficient. Schools are short $2 billion in funding, and Chicago's transit system needs $7 billion just to avoid grinding to a halt. It's a perfect storm. Pensions, deficits, and population loss. A three-headed monster eating away at the state's future. Illinois is like a family living off maxed-out credit cards, ignoring the foreclosure notice pinned to the front door, pretending that somehow tomorrow will save them. But tomorrow never comes. The numbers don't lie. The debts don't shrink. The exits keep filling. Illinois isn't just at risk of going broke, it's already halfway there. The only question left is, who goes next?